I talked about this in 4-3, but this is 4-4 slope formula. The slope formula is the same thing as rise over run. It's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Remember that the y's are on top. Let's take a look at example 1. Find the slope of the line that contains 4, -2, and -1, 2. Well, remember we have our xy. The first one is x1, y1, and we have our xy, but the second one's x2, y2. And I'm going to start with my formula. I'm going to plug in my numbers, so y2 minus y1, that's a double negative there, so it's going to become a plus, over -1 minus 4. 2 plus 2 is 4, and -1 minus 4 is -5. As long as there's one negative here, my whole fraction is negative, so I can write that as -4/5, or -4 over 5, or 4 over -5. They're all the same. These all mean the same thing. Regardless, it's a negative slope, so my line's going to look something like that. Okay, example 2, we're going to use the slope formula first to find the slope. So m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I'm going to label, doesn't matter which one you pick as your x1, y1. But I labeled mine this way, so my y2 is going to be 2 minus -1 over 2 minus -2. Remember, these are double negatives, so they become plus. So I get 3 over 4 as my slope. Notice it's positive, and so is my line, so that's good. I can also check with rise over run, so 1, 2, 3, up 3, and 1, 2, 3 to the right 4. So up 3, right 4 is correct for rise over run. Okay, for B, choose any 2 points from the table. So I'm going to choose 2, 0 and 2, 1. So my xy from this one, my xy from that one. And I'm going to use the slope formula. So m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. 1 minus 0 over 2 minus 2. 1 minus 0 is 1 over 2 minus 2 is 0. With 0 on the bottom, I said this in 4-3, that would be an undefined slope. If you type that in your calculator, 1 divided by 0, you'll get an error. Example 3, the graph shows how much water is in a reservoir at different times. Find the slope of the line and tell what the slope represents. Okay, so I'm going to label my points. I'll call this one x1, y1, and this one x2, y2. So first I'm going to use my slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, which equals 2,000 minus 3,000 over 60 minus 20. And so I get -1,000 over 40. Let's simplify this. Divide both of these by 4. We get -25. Notice my slope is negative, and so is my line. So that's perfect. And what does this slope represent? Well, I can take the words right from my x and y axis. So remember, slope is y over x, right? So I'm going to take the wording from my y-axis, 1,000 feet cubed per hour. So the slope is represented using these labels. That's what it represents. Example 4, find the slope of the line described by this equation, 6x minus 5y equals 30. Eventually we're going to use y equals mx plus b, where you'll isolate the y, and you guys should be good at that by now. But in the meantime, what we can do is we need 2 ordered pairs usually to find slope, right? So we can use the cover-up method to find our intercepts, which we did in 4-2. So if I'm looking for my x-intercept, for instance, in this first part, step 1, find the x-intercept. If I'm looking for my x-intercept, then I know that my y is 0. So if I plug in 0 right here for the y, it's like that doesn't even exist. I'm covering that up. So I get 6x equals 30. Divide both sides by 6, and x equals 5. So as an ordered pair, that would be 5, 0. And then I can find the y-intercept. If I'm looking for the y-intercept, I know that the x is 0. So I'll plug in 0 right there. Well, 6 times 0 is 0, so I don't need that. So I have negative 5y equals 30. Divide both sides by negative 5, and I get y equals negative 6. As an ordered pair, that would be 0, negative 6. And now I'm going to use slope formula. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I'm going to call this x1, y1, and this one x2, y2. And I'm going to just start solving. So negative 6 minus 0 over 0 minus 5. And so I end up with negative 6 over negative 5. Two negatives when you're dividing is a positive, so this is actually 6 over 5. Your calculator can simplify that for you.